Friends, do you know that the things that are called Black culture in America today, they were not born only in America? It's a question we rarely ask ourselves. In fact, many of these cultural pillars have their deepest roots in a small but powerful Caribbean island, Jamaica. Yes, the island of wood and water. Today we are going to tell you a story that is not written in the standard history books, but its impact is still alive in the music, fashion, and thinking of America today. From the way we speak to the rhythms that define our world, Jamaica's influence is everywhere. It shaped the very politics and language of the American streets. So be sure to watch the video until the end, because at the end, we will tell you the secret that changed the direction of the entire Black culture forever. You are viewing Caribbean People Info. This is where we tell you the real history, culture, and the hidden truths of Caribbean countries. Welcome home. Part 1. The shared history of slavery. Weavers. Let's talk first about the foundation that tied America and Jamaica together in an unbreakable bond. The relationship between America and Jamaica began in a very dark time, a time when humans were not considered human. This shared struggle defined our ancestry. In the 1700s and 1800s, millions were forcibly captured from Africa and sent across the Atlantic. This journey was called the Middle Passage. It was a path of pure tragedy. It was so terrible that thousands died. Those who survived were sold in two major places, the United States of America and the island of Jamaica. This is where the story gets interesting. There was slavery in both places, but the environment was completely different. The systems of control and geography varied greatly. In America, slaves were mostly in cotton fields and industries. Here, slavery was an organized, rigid system, kept under control by strict, dehumanizing laws. But in Jamaica, the slaves far exceeded the owners in number. The land was full of dense forests and mountainous areas, which were ideal for hiding and planning. Those who escaped settled in the mountains. They were called Maroons. These people didn't just hide. They built independent settlements and fought the British Army for years. Jamaica won the psychological war against slavery. They taught the world a powerful lesson. We may be slaves, but the mind can remain free. Think about that. Now we come to the influence which is the most powerful and which changed the sound of the entire world. We are talking about the soul of the streets. Music. If you listen to hip-hop today or see rap culture, most think it's purely American. But the truth is surprising. Its roots are in the streets of Jamaica. Subscribe to hear more.
Here begins a story which gave birth to the world's greatest music movement. In the 1960s and 1970s, a special music culture was growing in Jamaica. It was called sound system culture. It was not ordinary music. It was a social movement. Big speakers were installed in the city's neighborhoods. People would gather, and DJs wouldn't just play music while playing songs. They would also talk in between songs. They would talk to the crowd, tell stories, play words with rhythm. This style was called toasting. This was the moment where rap was founded. Now comes the most important character in the story, DJ Kool Herc. This is the man who the whole world today considers the founder of hip-hop. But one fact is often hidden. He wasn't born in America, he was born in Jamaica. When he came to New York as a teenager, he didn't just bring his dreams, he brought with him the entire Jamaican music culture. He started throwing parties in the Bronx area of New York. But his parties weren't ordinary. He adopted the same approach he had seen in Jamaica. Big speakers, high voices, and talking in between songs. He started playing only the parts of the songs over and over, where the beat was strongest. People would dance to it, and that was the moment hip-hop was born. From here came MCs, who started talking with the music. This talking later became rap. DJ competitions started, which later turned into the DJ battle scene. And then, this culture spread from the streets of the Bronx to the entire United States. Today, hip-hop is one of the largest music industries in the world. But its roots are rooted in a small Caribbean island. It wasn't just a musical influence. It was a cultural revolution. It gave Black American youth a voice, a way to tell their story, and a platform to be proud of their identity. It could be said that Jamaica didn't just give music, but the power of expression to an entire generation. Weavers, but the music was just the beginning. Jamaica's influence didn't end there. It changed the way American Black culture dressed, hairstyles, and even the concept of identity. Now let's move on and see how Jamaica revolutionized fashion and lifestyle. Weavers. Now we talk about this effect, which is not only visible through the ears, but also through the eyes. This is the effect of fashion and style. If you look at Black culture in America today, you will immediately notice a few things: loose clothes, natural hairstyles, dreadlocks, street style. Most people think that it all originated in America. But the truth is that this style also has its roots in Jamaica, and the center of this story is the Rastafari culture. Rastafari was not just a fashion or a style, it was an ideology, an identity, a silent revolution. This movement began in Jamaica in the 1930s. Its main message was that Black people should be proud of their true identity. At that time, a certain way of thinking prevailed in the world. White was considered a symbol of beauty, and Black people were forced to straighten their hair, change their appearance, and hide their true identity. Rastafari challenged this thinking. They said that being natural is the real beauty. That is why they adopted dreadlocks. Dreadlocks were not just a hairstyle, was a symbol of resistance, a symbol of freedom, and a symbol of pride in their identity. Similarly, Rastafari adopted simple clothing. Instead of expensive and luxurious clothes, they wore simple and comfortable clothes. It was a message that a person is not recognized by his clothes, but by his thoughts. Over time, this culture began to spread around the world through music. Reggae music in particular introduced the Rastafari style to the world. When Jamaican artists arrived in America, they didn't just bring music with them, they brought their entire lifestyle. Gradually, the Black youth of America started to adopt this style. They made dreadlocks their identity, made loose and comfortable clothes their fashion, and started to respect natural hair. This style later turned into hip-hop fashion. Baggy clothes, streetwear, and a style of self-promotion became the hallmark of Black culture. It can be said that Jamaica didn't just give a fashion, but a thought, gave a message that never hide your origin. And viewers, if you like to know such facts that are not told in general history, subscribe right now. Because at Caribbean People Info, we don't just give information, we show you the untold truths. Now let's move on and see the mark on language and slang. Weavers. Now we come to an effect that is not visible, but is heard every day. This is the effect of language and dialect. If you listen to the conversation of the Black community in America, you will notice their way of speaking has a certain rhythm and a certain accent. Most people think that all of this originated within America, but the truth is that many of these words come from the language of Jamaica. A special language is spoken in Jamaica called Jamaican patois. It is not just a language, but the result of history. This language was created when African slaves had to communicate with their European masters. They created a new language by combining their languages. This language was simple, but it had emotion, power, and identity. Over time, this language became the identity of the Jamaican people. When Jamaicans moved to America, they brought their language. For example, respect wasn't just a word, it was a greeting and an expression of respect. Similarly, Irie didn't just mean being nice, but it was a sign of peace of mind and positive energy. Yaman wasn't just a way of saying yes, but a cultural accent. Gradually, these words spread throughout America through hip-hop music, movies, and street culture. Here's an important thing to understand. These words weren't just language, they were a sign of resistance. It was a declaration that we would maintain our identity and not let our voice change. That is why Black slang was not just a way of speaking, but a cultural force. A force that has kept identity alive since the days of slavery until today. Weavers. And this same language was later used in political movements. Subscribe to Caribbean People Info for more untold cultural stories. We bring truths to life. Viewers, now we come to the part which would not be wrong if it were called the heart of this whole story. This is the impact that was not limited to culture or music, but it changed the course of thought, politics, and struggle. We are talking about political and social impact, and the most central character of this story is Marcus Garvey. Friends, Marcus Garvey was not just a leader, he was an ideology, he was an awakening. He was a voice that came to make the post-slavery black man realize that he was not inferior. Marcus Garvey belonged to Jamaica. He was born at a time when the system of slavery had ended, but the idea of slavery was still alive. Black people were said to be free, but they were not given respect, opportunities, and recognition. Garvey was the first to attack this mental slavery. He said, "We don't need to ask anyone. We need to recognize our power." He taught black people to be proud of their history, to be proud of the color of their skin, and to recognize their roots. This was the thinking later called Black Pride. Marcus Garvey started movements like the Universal Negro Improvement Association. His goal was not just to make speeches, he wanted black people to become economically, politically, and socially independent. He said that until a nation is economically strong, it cannot be free. This was considered too big and dangerous for that time. That is why attempts were made to suppress Garvey, but his ideas could not be stopped. These ideas later reached America, especially to black Americans who were already facing racial discrimination, poverty, and injustice. Marcus Garvey's writings, his speeches, and his message started to spread rapidly in America. From here, a new generation started to think, who are we? What is our identity? And why should we remain silent? Malcolm X is a strong example of this thinking. Malcolm X openly admitted that he was influenced by Marcus Garvey's ideas. Although the methods of both were different, but the message was the same: accept your identity and stand up against oppression. Malcolm X advanced the politics of self-reliance, and truth-telling. All of this was an extension of Garvey's thinking. On the other hand, Martin Luther King Jr. had a different path. Their style was peaceful, but their foundation was also based on the awareness that black life also has value. It would not be entirely wrong to say that if Marcus Garvey was the one to wake up black people, then Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. would have turned this awakening into a movement. It can be said that Jamaica did not just give the world a leader, but a thought that provided the intellectual foundation for America's largest civil rights movement. This influence is still alive today. Movements like Black Lives Matter are also links in the same chain. Weavers, after hearing all this, one thing becomes clear. Jamaica's influence was not just a supporting role in America's black history, it was a fundamental pillar. And the story is not over yet, because after political thought, we will see how immigration gave new strength to this entire culture. If you want such deep and extraordinary historical stories to keep reaching you, then subscribe to Caribbean People Info, because here we don't just tell the events, we expose the thinking behind them. Viewers, now we come to the stage where this impact is not limited to ideas or culture,
but actually moves from one society to another through the movement of people. This is the impact of immigration. After the 1960s, a major change occurred in the world. Many Western countries started to relax their immigration laws. In the United States, too, the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965 proved to be a historic turning point. After this law, it became easier for people from Caribbean countries to come to America. At the same time, thousands of Jamaicans started migrating to America in search of better jobs, education, and opportunities. This was not just a migration of people. This was actually the migration of an entire culture. When Jamaicans arrived in America, they did not come empty-handed. They brought with them their music, their food, their language, their customs, and above all, their way of thinking. Most of these people settled in New York, Miami, Chicago, and other major cities. The New York area of the Bronx and Brooklyn in particular quickly became the center of the Jamaican community. These were areas where young black Americans were already searching for their identity. When the two cultures met, a new culture was born. This influence was first seen in the field of music. Jamaican sound system parties began to take place in American urban neighborhoods. Reggae and dancehall melodies began to blend with hip-hop beats. This combination created a new sound that was more powerful, more realistic, and more global. The Jamaican influence also spread rapidly in the field of cuisine. Jerk chicken, curry goat, and spicy street food became popular in black American neighborhoods. It wasn't just a taste exchange, it was a sign of cultural acceptance. Jamaican immigrants also played a major role in thinking and lifestyle. They brought with them a strong sense of self-confidence, of community, and a tradition of collective struggle. They taught that in order to keep culture alive, it was necessary to make it a part of everyday life. The result was that Black American culture became more vibrant and more diverse. Another important aspect was also seen in sports and public life. Many people of Jamaican descent became prominent in American politics, media, and sports. They not only achieved success, but also kept pride in their roots alive. Thus, immigration further strengthened the bond between Jamaica and the United States. This connection is no longer just historical or theoretical, but has become a living reality. Viewers. So far, we have seen that slavery, music, fashion, language, politics, and immigration all together formed a relationship that is very deep and powerful. But in this whole story, there is still one surprising truth, a truth that very few people know. If you want that, we continue to bring you such deep and surprising truths, then be sure to subscribe to Caribbean People Info. Because here we don't just give information, we bring to light the hidden relationships of history. Now let's move on and reach the final part of this story. Viewers. Now we have reached the point in this whole story where a truth comes to light that both surprises and makes you think. Today, if you look at the Black culture of America, especially the world of music, then you will see one thing clearly. Almost every major Black music style has some form of Jamaican influence, whether it is hip-hop or rap, or the global spread of reggae, or dancehall beats, or DJ culture. Somewhere in the roots of all of these, there is a Jamaican cultural foundation. But the surprising thing is that most people are not aware of this fact. History is usually presented in such a way that all these movements originated only within America. The role of Jamaica is either not mentioned at all, or is described in a very modest way. That's why this whole relationship is called the untold story. That is, a story that exists, but has not been fully told. If we look deeper, it is not just a story of music. It is actually a story of a cultural journey. It is an example of how a small island can influence one of the greatest cultural forces in the world, American Black culture. It is also a reminder that history doesn't always follow a line. Often big changes begin in small places. Jamaica's impact was like that. The sound of a small island emerged from the streets, in music, then reached the cities, and eventually become a part of global culture. Today, around the world, when young people listen to hip-hop, do rap, or adopt street culture, they are unknowingly keeping this Jamaican cultural legacy alive. This is the most surprising thing about this story. The impact is so deep that it has become a part of everyday life, but its real roots are often hidden from sight. Viewers, this was the complete story that started with the time of slavery, passing through culture, music, language, politics, and immigration, reaching today's global Black culture. If you want to know such profound and untold historical truths, then definitely subscribe to Caribbean People Info. Because here we don't just give information, we bring untold stories with a complete picture to you. And remember, the most interesting history in the world is that which everyone sees, but does not fully understand.